Hey, what's up? My name's Melinda. I'm a Sephora beauty director, and for today's beauty newbie, I'm going to show you my brow grooming routine. Whether you're in between brow appointments or you're just doing a little maintenance, these are a few really easy steps to follow. So make sure you have some good lighting, grab a great mirror, and we'll jump right in. Okay, beauty newbies, we really only need two things to do this. So I'm going to start with my Sephora collection set. This is the BYOB Build Your Own Brow Customizable Set. And I'm also going to be using this one from Tweezerman. This is the Brow Shaping Scissors and Brush. These two things are going to give you everything you need. So the Sephora collection set is going to come with tweezers, which are your best friends, and they're really good tweezers. I know not all tweezers are made the same. These ones are great. The Sephora collection brow pencil, which you can choose the shade that you want to add, and then just a clear brow gel, which is like a standard for everyone for brows. The Tweezerman set is going to come with a spoolie that's awesome because it's a really good, strong spoolie that's going to stay intact so you can reuse it and keep going with it. And then some little precise scissors for trimming. You don't ever want to use like your regular construction paper scissors on your brows. It'll be a mess. So these are perfect and made for that precision. All right, so step one, we're just going to decide on our shape and kind of look at symmetry. So I'm just going to use my Sephora collection brow pencil for this. Any like straight tool will work. So what you want to do is just take the pencil, place it right up against the side of your nose in a vertical format, and just kind of see where that falls in the center of your brow. For me, I can see that the pencil is almost like halfway at the start of my brow. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to move it to the other side, place it against the side of the nose, kind of see where my brow starts. The center is looking pretty symmetrical for me, and to be honest, my brows aren't super close together. They kind of veer a little bit further apart than close together, so I'm not going to take too much from the center. If you have brows that tend to be a little bit closer and you want to pull them out slightly, do it very slowly, because that's one of people's biggest mistakes, is over tweezing the center. So keep that in mind. Once you do that and you kind of establish what you want to do at the center, you can do the same exact thing, place the pencil against the side of your nose, and then just rotate it outward towards your arch. Look at the placement of the pencil and see where the tip of your arch is, and kind of see where that is on like your eye as well. So for me, up against the side of my nose, I can see that my arch lies just past the center of my eyeball. So if I look on the other side, same thing. I think I have my symmetries pretty good for the center and the arch. I don't see too much of a difference between the two. Where I tend to have the most inconsistency is with the tail of my brow, because my brows just kind of grow wild out there. So I'm going to show you where my focus is. So using the same pencil, just going to take that angular motion up against the side of the nose and see where it ends. So for me, it's right here, and you can see that's where my brow kind of naturally ends anyways, but there's some hairs down here, so we'll definitely get rid of those. Doing the same thing on the other side. Just going to place my finger there, and I can see, all right, so this brow is ever so slightly longer than the other. So I can keep that in mind when we're tweezing, that my right brow is going to take a little bit more lift on the tail. So step two is to tweeze. I'm going to use my spoolie first just to brush my brows up and out. So that's going to kind of help me see where all of the hairs are underneath that we might not need. Going to do that on both sides. Once you've done that, you can take your Sephora collection tweezers, and I like to use just my ring finger to kind of place here for a little bit of taut, kind of pull the skin, but be careful, it's the skin around your eyes, so it's more delicate. And we're going to focus on the lower line of the brow. So that's why we brushed up. So now I can see where I have little rogue little babies popping out, and then we'll also focus on the tail here past where the end of our shaping was. All right, so starting at the arch, make sure you're tweezing at the root of your hair. It sounds silly, but if you pull from the top and the hair breaks, that's actually how you can create some ingrown hairs, and we don't want those. And if you're ever unsure as to whether or not you should tweeze a hair, just don't. Because once you go through all of this process and you actually fill them in and you get them exactly how you want, you can always grab that last little hair or last few hairs that you weren't sure about, but you can't go backwards. So I have pretty thick and unruly brows. I got them from my Cuban father. It's just like thick hair here and like super fine hair here. It doesn't really make sense, but I love them and I kind of let them do their own thing. I don't like to over tweeze. So you'll notice that I'm definitely keeping the majority of my grooming a little bit lower. I don't get too close to this line because I don't want quite as much definition. Now, underneath the center of your brow is a good place to focus on, because sometimes you get these little ones that just kind of, it's almost like not enough definition. So I'm gonna go under there and just pull out the tiny little baby hairs. You can't even see them like to the naked eye. That's why I'm like, lighting is so important when you're doing your brows. I like to sometimes even bring a mirror outside in my backyard and do this. All right, I see a couple more just right here. There's a few just below where I want the line, my definition line. So I'm being a little bit more meticulous here. And that feels pretty good to me. Like I mentioned, I grabbed a couple on the ends. I think I'm gonna leave that for now just to make sure I don't overdo it. And then we can take our spoolie and we're just gonna brush the brows down to now focus on the top line. So that really makes it so that I can see where the line of the brow is up top and take away anything that's unnecessary or too far up. So for me, you can see my brow line is right here, but I have a few hairs that are just kind of hanging out right up here. So I'm just gonna be careful not to go too low. And this is where, you know, brows are very personal. So maybe you're the type of person that likes a lot of definition. You might be more meticulous and kind of create a very straight line with your brow hairs. For me, I'm going a little more natural. It's also a little more beginner friendly. And then finally, just looking at the tail here, for some reason I tend not to get too much hair that grows above my tail line here, the same way that I do here. So I'm not seeing too much. I see one that's kind of sticking out I'm gonna grab. Perfect. So you can see I get a little bit of redness. It always goes away pretty quickly. Even if I do my brows before I pop on my makeup, by the time I move on to my makeup, it tends to be gone. So don't be too concerned about that. All right, I'm gonna move to my second eyebrow, but first I wanted to just mention, make sure you're using a mirror that you're comfortable with, that you use on a regular basis. Stay away from the magnified mirrors. In my opinion, it gets you so hyper-focused on the little tiny hairs that you're not looking at the bigger picture. So stick to what you know and what you're used to. For me, it's just a regular mirror like this one. So if you recall, when we were looking for symmetry, this tail was a little bit longer, had a little bit more length than this side. So I know some of these hairs down below, especially the ones that are like significantly separate from the end of the tail, can definitely go. Otherwise, I'll leave them there, and at the very end, I can kind of take a peek just to like finalize the tail. So you can see this one is a nice big one down here, definitely gotta go. Okay, and now we're gonna take our spoolie again and brush the brow down. That way we can see the top line of the brow. And then just pop your finger up top, pull it tight again, and grab some of those kind of sparse hairs that are up above your brow line. So you'll notice you're not gonna see like a huge significant difference when I'm removing some of these hairs, and that's really the point. I don't wanna take out too much at once. We're moving slowly. This is all about maintenance, whether you are, you know, late to your next brow waxing appointment, or maybe you just tweeze on a regular basis to maintain your brows. It's always best to keep it natural and move slow. If you see too much of a difference at once, it means you're taking a lot of risk. All right, and now I'm gonna just look at the tail of my brow. Funny enough, unlike this brow that doesn't really have any hair that grows on the top of the tail, this one, I don't know if it's because I have a little freckle there or what, but it does tend to get some hairs on top of the tail, so I'm gonna dig in a little bit on this side. Step 3, we're going to trim. So we're gonna take our spoolie again, our best friend, and just brush those brow hairs upward and outward so we can really see what we're working with, and you can kind of get an idea of the different lengths of brow hairs that you have. Then we're gonna use our Tweezerman scissors, which are wonderful because they're precision scissors that really get in there. You never wanna do this with just regular old scissors, trust me, not a good idea. I love these too because they have like a little bit of an arch. You can see how it almost looks like a bird or a crane. It makes it a little bit easier to handle. So when you're tweezing, it's all about precision. It's all about the individual snips versus one fell swoop where you're just going all the way through, because you're only giving yourself one chance and there's a lot of room for mistakes. Not to mention, it tends to make the brow look not quite as natural. Now, if that's the look you're going for, totally understand. But for me, I'm gonna focus more on individual snips. So you can see at the tail here, these hairs at the very end are looking a lot longer and they're kind of further out than up here. So I can kind of take the scissors and just do some precision snips. This one here, you can see I have a curly little brow hair here. So I'm just gonna snip the very top of that because it's gonna make it easier for me to actually shape without the curl at the end. When I get to the arch, I like to be extra conservative, don't take too much off. Even using my scissors to kind of pull the hair off the skin, you can see how long they are up there and how a few of them are much longer. I'm gonna trim just the much longer ones. And then moving into the center, same exact thing. I'm just looking for the longest hairs and carefully trimming those just a little bit shorter to level them out. All right, so now I'm gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. All right, I'm gonna jump off and fill in my tails real quick with the Sephora Collection pencil, and then we can come back and just make sure everything looks perfect. Okay, so I've filled in my brows with my pencil. I added a little bit of brow gel, and this is when I kind of like to take my last look and just make sure everything is looking how I want it, because this is how you're going to stylize your brows and how you're going to apply makeup. So if there's anything left over that you want to trim or tweeze, now's the time. I feel like this is looking pretty good, and I'm really happy with my results. I know that this can seem a little bit intimidating, but it's really not. It's all just about taking the steps and moving slowly so you don't have any of those brow horror stories. It's so easy to avoid those when you just take your time. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other ideas for beauty newbie videos. We're always looking for some fresh new ideas of what we can share with you. Make sure to save this video so when you do go to do your brows, you have something to reference. Share it with those friends who have been a little scared to move into brow grooming, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.